Welcome to the all-new Hyundai i20, and I know by the time this video is out, you probably know more about it than I do, and I don't blame you. It's such a popular car. It's been covered extensively by so many. We ourselves did a nice little walk-around video. You can check that out here, maybe somewhere, I don't know. But yeah, the point of today is that we have it against its biggest rival. The challenger is going against the current segment leader. It is, of course, the Maruti Baleno. How that will pan out, we'll only see later. But for now, don't forget to subscribe to Top Gear India and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. However, let's slow down the pace and see what they are like on the outside. The i20 is clearly the more radical looking with its new age styling and sharp edges. It is certainly a big leap ahead, and you don't need to stare too long to notice the added dimensions. The extra length, the extra wheelbase, and the fact that it is also wider now adds to the overall road presence. The front is edgy with sharp headlamps and that big parametric grille, whereas the rear is funky with the Z-shaped tail lamps. The Baleno, on the other hand, is rather plain and subtle in comparison. That said, it is still a handsome car, and it's not like the design is dated. The snazzy wheels and the curvy design is hugely appealing, and it is a lot more simpler and safe. That said, the interiors are quite different too. Now, the interior on the all-new i20 is definitely one of its highlights. There's just so much to like here. Starting with the steering, that is straight from the Creta. Well, not straight from the Creta. This one doesn't have the flat bottom, but everything else is the same. It's 4-spoke, wrapped in leather, feels very premium to the touch. Then you have the more modern-looking, fully digital instrument cluster, very futuristic, very crisp again. Moving on, you have the 10.2-inch touchscreen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. There's a ton of functionality in there as well, so there's a lot to play with. Low down, you have wireless charging with a cool pad, you have a Bose audio system, you have ambient lighting, you also have an air purifier, and the biggest of them all, you have a sunroof. Well, clearly the i20 is packed to the gills, but what about the Baleno? Now, when it was launched, the interior of the Baleno was just fine. I mean, nobody had a problem with it, but now when you jump in it straight from the i20, things are rather different. I mean, the design for one just feels dated and old now. Even these switches and buttons, they work fine, but they just don't have that wow factor that you have with the i20. Then you have the instrument cluster. Again, you get analog dials here, and I personally like the needles going up and down, but it doesn't wow you like the i20 does. You don't even have wireless charging, you don't have a sunroof, you don't have Bose system, don't have ambient lighting, and you also get a rather small touchscreen to play with. Well, it is definitely not the best one out there. It misses out on a lot of features. You get the basic functionality with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but that is about it. So that premium factor that you want from a premium hatchback, the Baleno is just not that. Now, the front is all well and good, but what about those who want to sit at the back? Alright, the back seat on the all-new Hyundai i20, clearly a big step up from the previous car. This, of course, has the extra wheelbase. It is also longer, it's also wider, so cabin is quite nice. There's a lot of space here, it's nice and roomy. This light upholstery also helps. I'm over 6 feet, and as you can see, I have enough legroom, there's enough headroom. Cabin is also nice and wide. You also get AC vents, you also get a place to keep your phone. There's also a USB charger back here, so it is a very nice place to be. The only deterrent is that the seat is a bit low. It's nice and comfortable, don't get me wrong. The cushioning is nice and soft, it's supple, the support in all the places. You also have a center armrest, but it is just a tad bit low, so getting in and out is a problem. If you are the ones that want the car for the elderly, this is a point worth considering. Well, this seat is obviously aces. Let's see if the Baleno can match this. Well, like I said, the Baleno, you sit nice and high. Getting in and out is also very easy. So if you're the sorts that wants to buy the car for the elderly, like I mentioned, this is a very good option. However, space is not as much as the i20. Yes, there is a good amount of legroom, headroom, it's nice and wide, and it's very airy as well. But just in terms of sheer legroom, if you're someone who's above 6 feet, this is not the best place to be. Also, you miss out on rear AC vents, and you only get a normal car charging socket instead of a USB port. So that is another problem it has. But overall, the seats are very nice, especially the cushioning. It's nice and soft, it's comfy. You can definitely spend long hours back here. Enough about the boring bits. How are these hatchbacks to drive? Now, like you probably know, the i20 gets a host of engine gearbox options. You have 2 petrol engines, you have 1 diesel engine, you have an IMT gearbox, DCT, CVT. It's all there. But today what I have is the 1.2 liter 82 bhp Kappa engine. Not the best one on the lot, definitely not one if you're someone who likes to drive, but it is the closest in terms of pricing, because I think that is the biggest negative with the i20. Prices have been on the slightly steeper side. You know, if you compare to the Baleno, spec to spec, it is a significant amount more. But how is the engine? Let's get to that. Refinement is not a problem. It never was with a petrol engine of a Hyundai. But what is a problem though is outright performance. There just isn't enough grunt. There's no poke, there's no pep. If you want to have a quick overtake, slam the throttle, and nothing happens for quite a while before you start getting that little bit of a surge. And I think it's done to, you know, get the maximum fuel efficiency out. It is an engine best meant for the city, so I think for someone who likes to just putter around in the city, if you are using it for work and back, something like that is going to be fine. But on those occasional trips outside town, you will struggle. It just feels really underpowered, especially when you compare to that K12 engine in the Baleno. If it were the turbo, it'd be a different case. I would be zooming past the Baleno, but this 1.2 liter Kappa engine can only do so much. It's fine for the city, but nothing about it is, what's the word, fun. Now jump into the Maruti Baleno and the differences are extreme. I mean, for one, the cabin just isn't as plush, you know, fine, the design is a bit different and it's all unique, but that quality, that solid build quality of the Hyundai, that premiumness of the materials is just not there. And then you have the seating position, which is slightly higher. It does give you a nice view of the road, but it feels just a bit odd because while driving, the i20 is nice and low. You know, you sit down, you sit low, it feels nice and stable. The Baleno just doesn't have that, and I think a lot of it has to do with the way this thing rides. You know, the suspension is a bit too floaty. The lightweight characteristics doesn't mean it's good on highways. Stability, for one, is a big issue. Previous owners have complained, and with this one, it still is the same problem. It just isn't as stable as the i20 on roads, and I think that is its biggest problem. Then you have the steering, which again is quite lackluster. There is no feel, no feedback. It is very vague. It is light and it is very easy to drive in the city, but that said, it is just not reassuring in any way. The brakes are fine, the gearbox is okay as well, but the engine is where things sort of take a big turn, because the engine on the Baleno is quite a gem. The K12 engine comes to the rescue when you want to drive in a spirited manner. Along with strong performance, it also has a very strong efficiency, and that is a big draw. Now the engine, like I said, is an absolute gem. There is plenty of poke, there's grunt, there's a nice amount of surge. You never really struggle for power, but everything else is just lacking behind. But stability, for one, is still a big issue. I mean, I'm only doing around 100 kph right now, and the car is still floating around. It's just not as stable, it is not planted, and I think that is the biggest complaint that customers have with the Baleno. It's just not stable. It doesn't have that reassuring feel that you get from the other cars. The i20, with its nice low set seat, it's just very, very stable and is a very good hatchback overall. And that's the issue. The Baleno is aces when it comes to the engine performance, but how many actually have it as the top priority? Now, as much as I like this 1.2 liter engine, sadly it just isn't enough. I mean, you need more with a car like this. It's a premium hatchback after all, and honestly there is very little that is premium with the Baleno. Yes, the engine is nice, it's fun, it has a lot of poke, but the rest of it, I mean, where's the sunroof? It still has just 2 airbags, it still doesn't have wireless charging, it doesn't have more speakers. I mean, you get what I'm saying, right? It's just not a more complete car. The i20, even though the engine is not fun, it's still very, very livable. It is very easy in the city, it's nice and convenient, and you get that big list of equipment as well. So I think the Baleno is struggling, and even though the Maruti badge and the cheap pricing will mean that it will still be very strong in terms of sales, between these two, if I had to choose, it would definitely be the i20. After driving both these cars for a full day, what I predicted at the beginning did actually happen. Now at the start of the day, the i20 was out to take the crown from the Maruti Baleno for the premium hatchback, but After just a days of driving, I am convinced that it can easily do so. Yes, it is a bit more expensive, but a spec to spec comparison will get you the answer. Even with its sport trim, the i20 has a lot going on for it. It is just a more well-rounded and well-packaged car. So I think among these two, it is the i20 that you should go for. If you like this video, hit us with the thumbs up button. Let us know in the comment section what you think among these two and which one you would choose and why.